Let's take a look at Flash's Toolbox now, which you should see running vertically all the way down the right-hand side of your screen, all the way down the right-hand side of Flash's interface. Now, there's obviously lots to see in here, and there's a lot I want to show you, but I'm going to start off here by trying to break down the toolbox into sort of a more simplified description, if you will. The toolbox really is broken into three main areas. So let me explain here. The first area of the toolbox is the area that contains all of the tools, all of this stuff, all the icons. That's all the fun stuff, right? So we have tools in there for creating text and drawing shapes and manipulating objects and all kinds of fun stuff in there. So that's really the first area. And then the second area is the color area. And that extends from the pencil, where we see the pencil icon, all the way down to this icon here, which says swap colors. Now, we'll get more and more into working with color, but essentially the down and dirty here is that this area will allow us to set colors for outlines on our shapes, fills. We can swap colors and set default colors and all that fun stuff. So we'll get into that. And then the third and final area of the toolbox is the remaining icons that we have down towards the bottom. I call this area of the toolbox the options area. And how it works is, let's say, for example, we're going to draw some shapes, right? So we would grab our shape tool, and then we could set a fill and an outline color for our shape if we want in the color area. And then inside the options area at the bottom of the toolbox, we can set options for what kind of shape we want to draw or how we want that shape to behave. There's things called Flash's drawing models, which we'll get into. It gets a little bit more complicated, but just know that we have these three main areas. So hopefully all good. Now, let's go back to the first area of the toolbox, the fun part of the Flash toolbox, where we see all the tools, all this fun stuff up towards the top, right? Now, if you want to know what a tool is, just hover your mouse over top of the tool and you'll get a tooltip, just like you would in Illustrator, just like you would in Photoshop, right? So this guy here, our 3D tool, our 3D rotation tool, right? Or I could hover my mouse over top of the next guy and go, oh, that's the pen tool, or the lasso tool, or the rectangle tool, and so on, right? So you'll kind of get used to this as we go. And by the way, as a quick aside, notice how I keep mentioning Photoshop and Illustrator, and I think I've mentioned InDesign a couple of times. I'm trying to draw parallels between Flash and other applications that you might be familiar with. We see a lot of this behavior, similar behavior, across the different Adobe products. That's why I mentioned this, right? Now, let me bounce something else off of you here. Notice that some of the tools, I'm going to use my 3D rotation tool here. Notice he has a tiny black arrow right down in the bottom right corner of the tool. I don't know if you see that in there or not. It's kind of small. Same with the pen tool, same with the rectangle tool, and a few others. Now, not every tool has that tiny little triangle, but some of them do. What that tiny triangle represents, or what it's telling us, is that there's more tools hidden underneath that tool. So check this out. I'm going to use my pen tool as my example here. I want to see the other tools buried underneath the pen tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and hold with my mouse, and now I get this tool flyout coming up. So I can see, oh, there's the pen tool, and then we have the add anchor point tool, delete anchor point tool, and the convert anchor point tool, all hidden underneath the pen tool. That's how that works. So once again, you might want to take a moment and explore around and see what there is to see hidden inside the Flash toolbox. There's a heck of a lot more inside the toolbox than we can initially see. Okay, I want to throw one more thing at you here and then we'll move on. I don't know if you noticed this or not, but as we hover our mouse over top of the tools, not only do we get a little message, a little tooltip, free transform tool, for example, but we also see a single character in brackets. I don't know if you saw that with free transform, it's Q. Or for our black arrow tool or our selection tool, it's V. What the heck is that? Well, what that is that's a keyboard shortcut or a keystroke equivalent. So imagine this, I'm over on my stage working along inside Flash, and I want to grab my free transform tool. I could go over to the toolbox and click on the free transform tool, Or I could just tap my Q key on the keyboard, not Command Q or Control Q or Option Q or anything like that, just Q all by itself, or V for the black arrow tool, or A for the white arrow tool, or H for my hand tool, or M for the bone tool, and so on, right? Now, I don't know all of the keystroke equivalents, but I know the ones that I use all the time, right? And I found that working in this fashion has made me much faster inside Flash. So there you go. That's kind of a power user trick there for you. Maybe once you get really comfortable with Flash, you can come back and check that out. But anyway, there you go. There's the Flash toolbox.